Ralph, it's so good to see you back in the offices after that severe shot to the head that you took. I was surprised that a cinder block could fly that far.
Listen, it happened like 45 minutes ago. I'm fine.
You're a trooper, and it's good to see that you're just gonna walk it off. And I hear you. You got a pitch for me?
I got. All five of you, listen up, okay?
Oh, it's just me, Ralph. It's just me.
I know Hollywood. I know your tricks.
You sure you don't want to see a doctor?
Just give me a glass of water.
Okay. All right. Well, here you go.
Okay. What do I do with this?
It's gonna.
Why'd you give me a glass of water?
You asked for it. Just take a sip there, buddy. It's okay.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm excited. I can
tell.
I saw the Roger Rabbit movie.
Oh yeah, it's new to video. It's good flick.
I wanna do that, but the Bakshi way.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely can see that. You definitely have a very different animation style that compared to Disney. I think that could work out quite well. I'm guessing you want to do it a little darker too, like most of your films.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Ralph,
yeah?
Stay with me, buddy. Okay.
I was opening the show.
You're pitching me a movie, remember?
Oh, right. Okay, listen, I have some money too. Here, hold on.
Okay.
There. That's what I got.
These have little trains on them. I think they're from a Monopoly set.
That's when the money rolls in.
Not yet, Ralph. Not yet. Okay. Now, I'm okay with supporting this movie. Is it okay if we get Gabriel Byrne for the lead?
I don't. Yeah, get him.
Okay. Now, you've given us a script, but you're totally fine with us just throwing that script right out and having one of the execs rewrite it and make it the way he wants it.
I don't see how that could go wrong at all.
That's you're a trooper, Ralph, and I feel that once we get this Gabriel Byrne vehicle, he'll be the hero. Obviously, it'll be super obvious too that he's the hero, and between that and the terrible compositing that I'm sure we're going to do, once this movie hits theaters. Now, Ralph, you can say it now.
Ghostbusters!
No, Ralph, that's when the money rolls in.
Who are you gonna call?
Oh, Jesus.
You know when I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? What were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We got Ralph Bakshi some medical attention, so don't worry about that. But we are here with another episode of What Were They Thinking? I am Brendan.
And I'm Nathan.
And this is a podcast where we talk about the worst of the worst, the questionable of the questionable, the weird of the weird.
I think this checks all those boxes.
The tears of the sun, the eye of the storm. But we are post-awards show. We are into our fourth season, I guess, or fourth year. Seasons don't really end with us. But we're in our fourth year, and we are talking about this week the 1992 blend of live action, and I say blend with air quotes, live action and animation, Cool World.
Yeah, it's blended the way a sandwich is blended. I mean, it's just piece placed on top of other piece, placed on top of other piece. It's not really blended at all in any real way.
So here to join us to talk about this cinematic sandwich is returning guest. He joined us, of course, to talk about Eight-Legged Freaks, and he's back. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Real Feels podcast, welcome, Drew.
It's far too early for this, and I blame Brendan for everything.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Completely fair. Completely fair. The seeds were planted last time you were here, Drew, when we talked about the other movie that was possibly going to be Cool World, and I said, what better way to bring you back than with the movie we were going to cover last time?
I was already ready, and then I was watching it all over again and remembering, yes, why?
So, Cool World, 1992, directed by Ralph Bakshi, of course, as you heard at the beginning. Possibly with severe trauma to the head, we don't know. Just clearing out the lawyers right now. That was just for the purposes of skit. We can't confirm or deny that. But, do you guys know what this thing cost to make?
Too much.
I believe $30 million.
Jesus.
$30 million.
That is bonkers.
Do you guys know how much this movie made?
$20.
$15 million? Did it make half its money back?
Almost. $14.1 million.
I knew it was around half.
Here's the thing, though. It made almost half its money back, which is one thing. The other thing is this movie was heavily advertised. Like, the Hollywood sign, they took out a cutout of Hollywood, the Kim Basinger character in this movie we'll get into in a bit, and placed her on the D in Hollywood, despite many complaints from people in the neighborhood, and it did nothing to get publicity for the movie. If anything, it probably took away, because I think everyone in Hollywood was like, this is terrible, get that off of the sign.
Oh yeah, it caused some bad backlash.
Yeah, weren't they picketing it, and then they had to pay, like, at least $50,000 and not only, like, repairing the sign, but also, allowing them to do it. So really, they're losing even more money now.
Yeah.
Yep, they had to donate $27,000 to the city and another $27,000 to an organization coordinating cleanup following the Rodney King riots. So yes, guys.
So at least something good came out of this movie.
Cool World is related in some way to the Rodney King riots.
Because when I think Cool World, I think race riots.
Between live action and
some
animation.
some of the drawings that can be done by Cool World as well as Ralph might be a little bit suggestive and profiling, I think, slightly.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
You suggested this film is stereotypical in any way.
Look, Ralph, just because you colored the guy purple doesn't make it not racist.
We know what you mean. So Ralph Bakshi, and again, this is just a little bit of behind the scenes before we get started, saw this movie in a different light before it even was made. He wanted to do, I believe, a horror film?
Yeah.
That was going to be rated R?
Yeah.
Yeah, his concept that, at least that I read about, is far more intriguing than what they did with this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he wanted, if you don't mind me spoiling, if you were going to say this, but he wanted to have it be an animator who somehow managed to mate with a cartoon, and had a daughter that was part human, part cartoon, who would go on a revenge killing spree to kill her father.
Yeah, like,
wow.
like she doesn't belong in either world, so she feels out of place, eventually kind of goes insane. This seems like a more probable script, and frankly, far more intriguing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
However, there was a little meeting involving Kim Basinger and the producers of this movie. And she said that she would like to have... she wanted to intervene with the rating because they were still going for that R rating. And she said, basically, I want to be able to show this film to children in hospitals. And Ralph Bakshi said, Kim, I think that's wonderful, but you've got the wrong guy to do that with.
Goddamn right.
I'm wondering if this was before she even saw, like, the concept art for her character, because if she even saw, like, how her character would be depicted, no parent, no medical professional is gonna want, like, these sexualized images of women being put into, like, a children's wing. I mean, Patch Adams would be rolling over in his grave in order to see that this is how you cure children.
Wait, you don't remember the scene in Patch Adams? It was just a bunch of naked ladies just pushing their boobs in people's faces?
Was that the Jello fight? Maybe that was the Jello fight.
The story about Basinger wanting to show this to kids at sick hospitals or sick children hospitals was about halfway through the production.
Yeah, okay.
So she had made half the movie and thought this was going to be okay to show to kids.
No.
Yeah.
Hey kids, you ever made it with a doodle? What? So let's just dive in, guys. Cool World, 1992. Ralph Bakshi. I'm gonna say right off the bat. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just give a rundown real quick, and then we'll get into it. This is a movie about an animator played by Gabriel Byrne. He's created this comic called Cool World, and I guess it really exists in real life. There is a character in his world named Hollywood, played by Kim Basinger, who wants to become annoyed, or I guess that's what humans are referred to, and cartoons are referred to as doodles. So her ultimate goal is to fuck annoyed, and which will somehow turn her human, and then she can live in the real world. At the same time, Brad Pitt is a young, I guess he's formerly in the Navy, in the Army.
Well, he's coming
Air
home.
Force.
He's coming home from World War II.
Yeah, so he's coming over World War II. Horrific tragedy befalls him. He ends up in Cool World as the only live-action person living there. He is a detective trying to maintain the order between Noids and Doodles. And yeah, it kind of all comes to a head. So that's basically the short version of what this is. Let's get into the long version of what this is.
Okay.
So this movie starts. So I wanted to say the way this movie starts, for a movie that I mean, nothing else I feel really looks like this movie. And for a movie that tries to have its own like definitive style, I gotta say that the opening credits are the most boring opening credits. Just like blue letters just sliding into frame every single credit we get to see. So we start off with Brad Pitt coming home from the war. We get a lot of great extras acting. I'm pretty sure one kid even looked right down the barrel.
That happens.
And Brad Pitt is coming home. He looks like a little boy with a suit that's too big for him. I thought that the entire movie. I feel like they did the costume fitting with like John Goodman, and then they were like, "Oh, we got Brad Pitt instead. Whatever, we don't have time."
Well, he has to wear a zoot suit, isn't it? That's why it's so big on him. Or are you talking about when he's in his military gear?
I'm talking about throughout this movie. I just feel like all his clothing, all his costumes are just like made way too big for him.
It was the style. It was the power shoulders.
He's dressed like an 80s progressive businesswoman.
Or he's wearing a 40s zoot suit, because that's what he's wearing.
It just looks weird.
Oh, yes.
So, surprise, he comes home to his mother, who's very excited to see him, and he got her a present. It's a motorcycle for himself. I was confused at first, 'cause I thought he just gave her a motorcycle, and then he's like, look, I bought it. It's great. It's mine.
Right. That did seem a little weird, where like he's trying to tell us, like, close your eyes. This is going to be a surprise, Ma. It's okay. And yeah, he takes her outside. I thought that he had bought her a motorcycle at first, and my thought is like, you just got home. Where the hell did you get a motorcycle? Because she even said, I've been home he tells her, he's like, you've been home 5 minutes and you're already cooking? And she's like, well, you're home and you're hungry. So, I mean, like, where he got it, and then he explains, well, I won it in Italy, and, here's this motorcycle, and I'm thinking, how do you coordinate exactly for
I need you to deliver it?
Yeah, deliver it to Vegas, and then deliver it outside my house with no one noticing, and I want it to look like it has been polished and that the desert's dust has not touched it once.
Yes.
I thought before the Italy thing, I just thought, oh, maybe he bought it before the war and just like buried it in the backyard or something.
No. I mean, if they maybe had like changed a little bit of the story, even more so, where maybe the motorcycle like used to be his father's, and maybe he said like, maybe it's been a month and he's been, in the downtime and he's rebuilt his father's motorcycle. That could have been a nice surprise.
I thought you were gonna say the motorcycle was his father.
Like my mother.
Like my mother the car.
Yes, my mother's the car.
Just a detail that just gets introduced and then never referenced again is that his dad's soul is in his
You know
motorcycle.
what? For details that get referenced and are never mentioned again, that would fit perfectly for this movie. It would also make perfect sense as to why the mother is bouncing on the motorcycle before they, get hit.
Oh my. I get to ride him again.
Wish fulfillment. So he takes his mom on a ride on a motorcycle, and yes, they do get into an accident involving the most stereotypical drunks driving a car in the 40s.
And they're coming from the gambling casino.
Yeah, like the least impressive casino I've ever seen.
Next
What is the name
next to the drinking bar.
What is the name of the casino again,
It
guys?
just says gambling casino.
Yeah.
That's all it says.
Gambling.
And I think it's just casino, and gambling is just to let you know what happened
What they
at
do
the
there?
casino. Yeah, exactly.
Burgers. That's my favorite restaurant.
Eat burgers. Food burgers.
food.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
Taco spicy.
Where are you going to eat? Food burgers.
I have to run to the bank money.
I was going to say Blockbuster Video, but that was a real thing.
That's a legit thing, yep. Then, actually, I believe I rented this movie from one of those places, which, if I could steal a line from John Mulaney, is a very old-fashioned thing to say.
Oh, so they're driving, get to an accident. Brad Pitt's PTSD really kicks in.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is an odd choice, but all right. He's like crawling around and sees that his mother has indeed died from the accident. Immediately, she's gone. And neither of them were wearing helmets, by the way.
Well, that really wasn't a thing at the time.
I mean, they could have had something.
They could have, but it wasn't common at the time.
Well, they're dumb then.
As a matter of fact, there are still several states in the U.S., I believe, where motorcycle helmets are not mandatory.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I'm just saying it's not a smart thing.
No.
So she dies, and at the same time there is we go to this cartoon world, which we don't know anything about, because Gabriel Byrne hasn't even been introduced yet. But we
Right.
see this cartoon world with this little doctor, this old little doctor, and he has an open circle where he can see the real world. And for some reason, he's creating this, he has this electric dildo machine, and he...
Okay, he has created a power spike that
Electric
lets him
dildo.
see into our world.
Right, so he uses the electric dildo to transport himself into the real world, which we won't find out about till later, but we might as well say now he does that. While Brad Pitt gets shot into Cool World.
Yes.
Not really sure.
They do very little to try to explain the science of this. Even if it was toon science and they'd taken the time to explain it, I might have forgiven it.
At least Roger, Roger Rabbit had all kinds of weird things happening, but at least they took the time to make some sort of movie explanation for it.
Yeah.
Right, and so I mean, certain things where it just right, and it's continuing throughout the movie where the bouncing back and forth between reality and Cool World, it literally makes no sense. There is no explanation as to some type of continuity for it, and he's suddenly explained that he is in Cool World. The two toons who are greeting him are apparently police.
Yeah.
And they're just they're grilling him like he's already done something wrong. And
Yeah.
I mean, he's acting, Brad Pitt's acting as if he is, recovering from a serious, obviously a serious head injury. But when he even comes in, his clothes are fixed, his hair is fixed. I'm wondering if I guess the head trauma is still there. But
Here's the thing with that. He shows up in Cool World and looks like he has nary a scratch on him.
right.
Yep.
Later in the movie, spoiler, when he ends up back in the real world. When he comes back to the real world, he's all banged up and bloody again.
So I'm going to go with cartoon logic, where regardless of how injured you get in a cartoon, people always seem to get better by, like, the next frame. Yeah. Like, I mean, so that's fine. Like, it's interesting enough that I guess Annoyed can come into Cool World, and they inevitably, like, spoiler, like, they can be killed by a doodle, but the injuries from the real world are, I don't know, circumvented in some ways when
in some
coming
weird
back.
way.
So wait, you're saying parts of that are confusing?
No, that completely makes sense. Thank you, Doc Whiskers.
I think the one thing that confused me the most was because of the amount of time that passed between when he was in the real world.
Okay.
For him to just jump back in and still be all beat up like he was fresh from a motorcycle crash, I was like, that's okay. So like you go back to the regular world the same way you came in when you came to Cool World. I'm gonna try not to have an aneurysm or stroke while we explain this movie.
I think he has to have some type of, like, emotional outburst and, like, feel the moment that he was suddenly drawn into Cool World, because each time he has to scream "Ma!"
Right.
And he gets sucked back in. But I mean, talking about the time that he's been in and finally back out, so he gets back 1945, and then suddenly we are transported to 1992.
Yes.
With Jack in
Jack
prison.
Deebs,
Jack
played by
Deebs.
Gabriel Byrne.
So now it has been 47 years. All right? 47 years. Yet when Brad Pitt went to Cool World, and he has even explained, this place is Cool World. It may not seem real to you. But, I mean, so 47 years. How old is Jack? If Jack is the creator of Cool World, he does not look 47.
Well, and he'd have to be at least like 60 something.
Right.
But no, they explain in the movie that he thinks he created Cool World. When in reality they were just kind of visions that came to him because they like
when
Holly
he was
trying
like
to
5. I mean,
well, they don't say that. They're not saying that like he created it, like out of thin air, like so. When she's trying to break through to him to get him to draw him into into Cool World from the real world, she's sending him dreams and all this stuff. So I think the idea being that this Cool World has always existed, but we've not known about it. And because he drew inspiration from the dreams that he was getting, he created the comic Cool World, and he called it Cool World because I'm guessing he had
subliminal messages that he was getting.
I guess, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Only,
I mean, I guess
my
that makes
only
sense.
explanation.
All right, well, we've
That's
solved
much
it, guys. This movie is flawless. What were they thinking? See you next week.
Record time.
Yeah, so, I mean, like Drew was saying, yes, we go back, basically skip the Brad Pitt stuff. We go back to 1990. We go way ahead to 1992. Gabriel Byrne as Jack Deebs, getting out of prison. We find out soon after for murdering or killing a guy who was fucking his wife, basically.
Yeah.
This must also be the first movie where I've seen a guy get out of prison where he's driving himself home.
Yeah, to a very nice home, too.
That has been kept up. So obviously he must not have been in prison that long.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. He was in prison for murder.
Yeah, they might have played it down to manslaughter.
Even then, like, I like how it's not just like oh, he did a little bit of time for like whatever, like something like assault or something. No, manslaughter or murder.
Yeah.
And no one in the comic book shop seems to have a problem with it either. They're like, oh my god, it's Jack Deebs, Jack Deebs, Jack Deebs.
Yeah, that's how we establish our main character. Our hero,
ladies and gentlemen,
is Gabriel Byrne. By the way, I feel like Ralph Bakshi is totally like, like sees Gabriel Byrne as like how he would like to see himself, because here's this hotshot comic book artist. He's getting all the ladies, crushing tail every night. Like, all those comic book artists, they're the ones who get all the action.
Well, they're the real heroes.
Yeah, unless your name is Stan Lee or like
Jack Kirby. He had half of it right.
Yeah. So yeah, he does go to a comic book shop, and the woman behind the counter is instantly like, "Let's do this!" Like, she wants to get down, but I don't think he's ready for that. He's had a lot of prison sex, so he's not.
I feel like he's the guy in the Alcatraz movie who's like drawing all the time, or even in Shawshank when the warden doesn't like his drawings. Like, no one bothers the artist, man. He's just left
Clearly,
alone.
because they let him keep so much stuff in his cell and draw on the walls too.
Oh yeah, and a lot of that stuff is really sharp. And it's, like the pens and the filing down his pencils and whatnot. And he's even just like admiring Holly, obviously, before he gets sucked into Cool World for the first time. He's all like, "Oh, you're looking good tonight, baby. Yeah, soon it's just gonna be you and me. I'm gonna get out of here." Jesus.
He's already a strange guy because he's like basically fantasizing about having sex with one of his cartoon characters, and I'm like, Gabriel Byrne, there are real women around you that want to get down.
But they're not Holly.
They're not Holly.
They're not Holly.
But
they don't give him wood.
So, so suddenly Gabriel Byrne is taken into Cool World. He's just zoomed right in.
And I'm gonna say it's no downtown.
No, oh my god, the special effects in this movie, I'm just gonna say it right now, they are garbage.
Yeah.
But and it's not like it's a small budget. Like $30 million in 1992 is no small potatoes.
But my understanding is that's the aesthetic that Bakshi wanted to do with the movie.
That's crazy.
I think maybe half of the aesthetic, especially the other half being, "Oh, you rewrote my script? Okay. Well, I'm going to do whatever I want."
I think that's a big part of this movie and why it's the mess that it is, because I think a little bit of it is director revenge.
Well, I'm going to say that we find out right away that the interaction between animated characters and real-life characters, not good.
No.
Doesn't even look like they're on the same plane of existence.
Yeah, pretty bad.
I tried sitting down and watching for just like a couple of minutes while reviewing this film, the original Pete's Dragon. And I was looking at like how much it synced up with that, and I'm thinking, they did better in the 1960s than they even attempted in this one.
Right?
And then it's again, it's like a continuity issue where like you're trying to make things like sync up and actually look right and proper. Even when Harris pulls up in his car, which is a doodle car, but as soon as it stops and parks, boom, it's immediately a real car. So
it's a cardboard cutout.
Right. The cardboard cutout didn't necessarily bother me as much because I think it kind of fit with the art style of like how the backgrounds were painted and put in, which is fine. But then you have just so many random things that on Harris are real. A real suit, a real gun, a real car at times, but a cartoon badge and wallet.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes inconsistent is the word of the day, folks. But so as Gabriel Byrne is in this world, he sees Hollywood, played by Kim Basinger, performing in front of literally a bunch of horny wolves, and
they're all swaying in the same 3-second motion.
Yep, it's just a loop. And she starts to do her seductive thing. She basically, like we said, she wants to have sex with a Noid so she could go into the real world as a real person.
But that's the thing. She doesn't even know that that's gonna be a thing.
I thought she knew from the beginning.
No, she knew because when Harris came to visit her after Jack came to Cool World, he says, Harris addresses her and says, like, "Oh, I heard you had an experience at the club. You had an annoyed experience at the club last night." And she goes on and on, like, to him saying, the Noids, when they taste something, they really taste it. When they, smell something, they smell it. When they do it, they really do it. And I mean, she knows what it's going to take, and she knows what she wants. But for some reason, and then, later we learn that the golden rule is, noids don't have sex with doodles.
Yes. Of course, that's the golden rule. Well, because she believes in the legend of this one character, Vegas Vinny, and yes, that's the movie Kevin Nash watched for his inspiration.
Vinny Vegas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. He just switched it.
Okay.
But Vegas Vinny, this person, I guess from legend, was able to go to the real world and transform from a doodle to a noid, and she believes in this legend, so that's why she wants to do it.
Through the spike.
Ugh, yeah, the electric dildo. So, so I mean, yeah, this happens. There's a cartoon mob boss. There's a bunch of like goons. He's got wooden nickels that bite people.
Those things were cool. I mean, that's actually like a really cool thing that I enjoyed about the beginning of this. It's probably the neatest thing that I've seen in the film.
But this is the other thing in this movie that starts here and just goes throughout the whole movie, so might as well address it here, is during scenes, and I don't mean like while no one's talking and there's just like background, I mean during scenes of like conversation, like action that we're supposed to focus on, there are random animated gags in the foreground that have nothing to do with anything.
Oh, yeah.
Floating heads and faces that just fly through a screen for no reason.
Half-done animated sequences.
Yeah, anvils falling on people's heads and, like, people just, like... It's just... Well, I'll tell you what. I was curious about this, and I wanted to see if I could find a little more information about that. And apparently, Ralph Bakshi told his animators, who were apparently working without a script, by the way, he said... Just do a scene that's funny, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
And that's how we came up with that.
And this is when they're kind of scanning the skyline, when they're just kind of showing everyone what Cool World looks like. There's a Mickey Mouse on a billboard. A real angry-looking Mickey Mouse, but it's Mickey Mouse nonetheless. And later on, there is a Daffy Duck one, and there's also a couple of times where I'm almost positive that Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was like one of the...
No. I think he was the one who was he was holding the cannon, and he was shooting like the heavy set doodle in the dress, and then he got knocked underground, and then the cannon came back from underground and shot him again. Yeah, that was definitely like a portrayal of Oswald.
All right. Well, anyway, there's this whole running thing. There's a thing with this like this rabbit who's basically the rabbit from Bambi, I guess.
Almost.
Getting like ripped off by a bunch of goons in a dice game. They have their whole thing. The bunny, I guess, is insane. None of this has anything to do with the plot, by the way.
None.
It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to, because I think it's such an idea that when you have Disney films, especially like classic Disney animation, it's the contrast of like it's so cute, so cuddly, and even in like losing, she's like, but I won. I rolled a 4. And then she has to run to the cops, and she said, no fair. They cheated. And then he just jumps up to the cop, and I love like the veracity of how angry she gets, and she's all like, I want you to mess them up. I want you to rip them up. I want you to make sure that their mothers doesn't recognize them. I damn near peed. Like, I just love how just completely separated from the normality of, again, classic cute Disney to, I guess, like how it can be corrupted by this world.
And I mean, maybe that's like, I didn't so much have a problem with it so much that I just had a problem with like how it didn't relate to anything in any way. Like there was nothing connecting it with the story.
Like a lot of things in the movie.
And that's it. It also provides this weird, constant shift in not just the tone of the movie, but also the tone of the cartoons, because you get the cutesy Bambi bunny. There's some very Bakshi animation with Holly and also Brad Pitt's Toon girlfriend, who are very much on par with the sort of stuff that he would do if you've ever seen like American Pop or the Lord of the Rings movie that he did. Mm-hmm. But then you've also got some really crude ones, and then direct send-ups of old-timey Golden Age animations like Oswald and other of his ilk.
So Gabriel Byrne ends up back in Cool World later again, and he ends up hanging out with Hollywood and her goon friends.
Holly has a car. Yeah, the car with the big booty.
the car has a butt. Yeah, the car butt with Freddy Krueger, baby Jr.
Yes. What was with that? Why did he have like Freddy Krueger nails?
And a diaper and missing a bunch of teeth and I guess the resemblance of being maybe African American. You're not entirely sure, but it has this weird gray tone with random features, and the rest of his crew looks like, Lock, Stock, and Barrel from, Nightmare Before Christmas almost.
Who fucking knows?
I do like the fact they call the cops poppers, because their guns are kind of like pop guns. I thought that was cute. I thought it was actually kind of a fun thing.
And then in order to get rid of them, this character who you're talking about actually pisses on them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's how they get away, because I guess
it distracts them and the train hits them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the bunny gets squashed by the train. I think we're led to believe that the bunny died, but I thought like doodles don't die.
The bunny had a giant. The bunny was like sitting there after the crash, and the bunny said, "But I won," and then a giant bag of money just falls on it.
Yep.
But I thought doodles don't die in Cool World.
Well, you don't see any doodles die. The only time that I ever saw a doodle die, per se, is when Holly is driving her car and she runs over the guy who's walking his dog. And she runs over the dog because as soon as the car goes immediately by, you can look down in the street and there's like a blood splatter. So that's the only time that I ever see anyone actually significantly get hurt or die as a result.
Yeah, because the bunny doesn't die. We see that Bambi bunny again later.
Do we? I thought that was the end
you
of
do.
Oh, okay. There's no rules in this movie, though.
No.
Like, there are rules, but they don't make any sense, and they're constantly broken.
I mean,
but anyway, so
even for a cartoon world, I mean, there should be logic, even cartoon logic, to make some sense.
Yeah, internal movie logic. That's all you need. So they get away, and at the same time, this is where we learn that Brad Pitt has a cartoon girlfriend.
Yep.
The faux pas Betty Boop.
Yeah, and they can't bang, and she's very distraught by that. But his eye line in the scene, I'm like watching him look at her, quote unquote, and like he's not even looking close to where she's supposed to be standing. And like when he throws his arm over her shoulder,
oh, that's the worst.
Oh God, so bad. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It's again, it's an awkwardness of what it was to eventually finding today, where you can have people in those suits, Andy Serkis playing Gollum, or even Benedict Cumberbatch doing Smog. I mean, it's great to be able to actually look someone in the eye and know that the CGI is going to line up. I mean, after he does meet up with the girl Lynette, I mean, we are introduced to his partner Nails, and
yes, who provides a bit of tunus interruptus on them. Right,
and I mean, played by Charlie Adler, who's I think might be one of the top billed voice actors in this entire film. Where I mean, you had him doing voices like Cow and Chicken. He was Ickis in All Real Monsters, Starscream in the recent Transformers films. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not a spider, but he resembles a spider. And everything about him says spider, but he only has 6 legs.
Yes, I thought that was weird too, because I was pretty positive. And there's one point where they're using his spider web to climb a building.
Is it a spider web, or is it a rope?
Well, no, I'm pretty sure he's producing it.
Okay.
So if it's not a spider web, it's some sort of silk that this insect that he's supposed to be produces. And I don't know, I have some other questions too about the whole tunes or doodles don't have sex with noise or vice versa. Like, how hard and fast are they with that rule? Are they just talking about, like, straightforward sex to completion? Like, what if if Brad Pitt wanted to go down on Lynette, would that be frowned upon?
Right, I don't know if that's actually the case, because I think it's just, like, if they cannot have, like, physical intercourse, because even Brad Pitt says, I'm like a socket without a plug. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it like just when it comes out, like they can't fuck. I think that's just really what it is.
And Brad Pitt delivering like film noir dialogue, I'm sorry, at his age in this movie sounds really awkward to me.
Yeah, but don't forget, he's, he would be, I guess, 67, even though he hasn't aged a day since the motorcycle accident?
Yeah,
Right.
but he's stuck in a permanent, like, however old he's supposed to be, like 20 or whatever.
Right, because he's in a cartoon world.
But I'm just saying, like, Brad Pitt in general, like the actor delivering this kind of dialogue seems very unnatural.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really buy him as... I think, man, even in like 7, I think 7 might have been the first one where I kind of saw him as like
As an actor?
as like a real, not like an actor, but like as an actual like detective. But even then, he was like, kind of over the top and haphazard, kind of careless in certain ways. This one, he's far too confident.
At least in 7, though, that was like part of the plot, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This just seems odd. Like, I mean, even when Holly brings Jack to the club and his first words to him are, freeze, asshole. And you're like, whoa, who are you? And what's been happening? Like, why am I immediately, like, enemy number one?
So, I mean, let's go right to the point here where Kim Basinger, Hollywood, whatever, has Gabriel Byrne in her, like, weird little twirling tower. She takes him up there because it's time to get down. And at the same time, we have to watch their goons, like, build a tower so they can watch or whatever.
Well, because they were promised that they could watch
she
fucked. Yeah.
It's that's a part of the movie. So they're up there, and I guess in order to have sex with a cartoon, you could just keep all your clothes on.
Well, she starts undressing him. But
yeah, but I mean, she's still got like underwear. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Let's get into this.
Hollywood doesn't strike me as the kind of girl who wears underwear if she doesn't have to.
I mean, when they cut to her though,
She's just
like
drawn
rocking
that
on top of him. Jesus Christ! When they cut to
she's like
her,
seducing the crap out of saying, like, "Are you gonna follow the rules? No. Are you gonna go with your instincts? Yeah. And I mean, just it's so odd then as well because the rest of Cool World apparently like knows that this is about to go down. I mean, I love the mother rabbit, and it's like, man is in the bedroom, and then the two innocent little like daughter rabbits are like, ooh.
That was messed up.
That was so creepy. Where they're all like, they're gonna have sex. It's so awkward and weird, and also plays a complete void of logic. Where if the rest of Cool World knows that this is happening, why is Snails not telling Harris?
Well, no, that's the thing. Remember he tries to.
No.
After
he tries to tell him, like when the or that it was going to go down. No, that it happened after. But Cool World, like people knew that it was going to happen before. Like they got this like sixth sense about it.
No, I don't think it's that. I think that those rabbits just
if there's any creature in the animal kingdom who knows about fucking.
Right. But I think they live in that building that Holly kind of owns or lives in or whatever, and so when they're there when they just kind of walk past so yeah. I think everybody who's in that building knows what's gonna happen for sure, because she makes a big deal out of letting everybody know that they're gonna bone, and then even Sparks knows because he calls.
Yeah, he says go bust him.
Yeah, like I felt that Sparks was almost supposed to be like a big baddie, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, the mob boss guy.
The mob boss guy.
Yeah.
He's in like 3 scenes.
Yeah, but the way they introduce him and the interactions that he have make it seem like he should have a bigger part in the story.
Yeah, it's really weird. I feel like I feel like he was the baddie in like one of the versions of this script.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But so they have sex. It's done.
The explosion.
The explosion in Cool World happens. Hollywood slowly transitions into who's that? It's Kim Basinger, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so yeah, it makes her real for reasons.
Yep. And while this is happening, Brad Pitt is hanging out with his cartoon girlfriend, and Nails is at the station, and he gets a call like, hey, Holly and a real, annoyed just boned. So he goes to call Brad Pitt on a phone that reminded me of the Kermit phone in Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue, that it looks like it just wants to end its own life.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it was talking before the phone call came in. It's not like, I just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
There's
it's living
no
in
purpose.
constant torture. So he calls Pitt, and Brad Pitt's like, is this something you can't handle, Nails? And Nails is all, no, you know what? You just enjoy your night. I got this.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure that you were doing okay. It's all right. I'll call you later. And then he's just loading the gun. I did find it very humorous when his hand is shaking while loading the gun, and he takes the other hand that is free and steadies it. I found that to be pretty clever.
Yeah, I wrote down that he was doing some Buster Keaton stuff with that gun.
And I mean, it's weird because he's so confident to get the bullets and start putting them in, but then he has to again reassure himself. Like, what am I doing? I can do this by myself. I'll be fine. Shoots himself in the butt.
So at this point, we should also note that Gabriel Byrne has his pen with him, that he uses to draw or whatever,
Which was
so
introduced
dangerous.
earlier to be a possible deadly weapon,
Right.
or deliverance of beverages.
Yes.
Yeah, he said this can be a real nuisance.
So Holly uses it to suck nails into the pen,
Get inked.
and when they go to the real world, I love how her costume somehow is pink suspenders with her initials on it, and
They're like an odd job kind of version of how they really would look. But each time that they start blipping in between reality and Cool World, I was thinking see, that's why you don't bone a doodle, because now both of you have the weirdest STD ever, and this is how it's going to be reacting to you.
yeah, so exactly. So after they've already boned, they start blipping back and forth between doodle and real life. But the doodles that she blips between, it's not her.
No,
It's just
Sounds
a
like a
random
clown or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
My favorite thing about when they went to the real world was when she got to meet Breen's neighbors. Or Burns' neighbors.
Neil Breen.
oh yeah,
Yeah, Neil Breen.
Recast it.
She has the most insane dialogue that if you were to meet someone who were talking that way, you'd be like, I think she should be in a group home or something.
I'm from out of town.
She's saying this is me. I'm real.
That's Jack.
Jack, he's real too. We're both real.
We're both real.
Are you real?
And then she wants to go to the club and do every shot of liquor.
All 95.
All
Yeah.
95. Why should I slow down? It's because you'll die.
Which I gotta say, the neighbors, they're obviously a little off-put, but they don't react too strongly to all of this.
Well,
it's Vegas.
They immediately jump over to the light show that's happening inside, and I absolutely love that each time that Jack is sent either to Cool World or back from Cool World, he doesn't have a smooth landing. He's always crashing every single time. And it's also the idea of, again, it's the logic of how the transportation happens. Is there a logical sequence of where they're going to land and where they're going to be transported to? Because when Brad Pitt's character Harris, comes back to reality, he ends up.
There goes Rabbit. He chokes. Okay, go ahead.
God damn it! I thought we were gonna get through it without it, but
I mean, but
there it
he ends up in Jack's house, so I mean, there's no logic to it, unless in 47 years, that was the site of the accident, and they've built up new homes.
But if that's even the case, they don't explain that at all.
No.
Nothing's addressed. At all.
The closest you get to that is that there is a casino just behind the housing development, leading us to believe that
that's the
gambling casino next to the drink bar was built up over the years along with the housing development.
The home lives.
Right, exactly.
The building
They're all
house
located on the drive street.
The building houses.
Okay, I gotta go to the store food.
Food store.
Yeah. No, it's where you store food.
Right.
So, yeah, there's barely a reaction to that. They go to the nightclub, Holly and Gabriel Byrne, and I think this is probably my least favorite scene in the entire movie, is that she just starts singing with Frank Sinatra Jr.,
singing "Let's Make Love."
Let's make love, and it's not like there's no jokes. Like, this is supposed to be a funny scene, I think, but the only real joke here is that she keeps like blipping back and forth to which no one reacts to properly. And I'm just like, why have this scene where they just sing the entire song? Like, this is just nothing.
So gotta pad that film somehow.
I mean, she's singing "Let's Make Love," which I think is a reference back to the movie that she was watching when Harris first
Marilyn
visited her.
Monroe
Yeah,
movie.
with Marilyn Monroe. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And so, yeah, she's just blipping back and forth again. So then Brad Pitt is like, all right, he finds out about this, and he's like, I gotta go into the real world. And in order to do so, again, going back to this non-logic of going back to the real world or going into cool world, is that for Brad Pitt to do it, he has to, we have to see, a rear projection behind him of, when his mom died, see him go, Mom! And then he's, transported into Gabriel Byrne's house. What?
Right.
And as I said earlier, it looks like he's fresh from a motorcycle crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's immediately as he left.
It's so strange. Yeah. So, at the same time, so Holly, Gabriel Byrne got kicked out of that club, by the way, and then Holly eventually leaves because she's freaking out, and she tells him, we gotta go find this spike of power, because but we're not really sure, I guess she wants to find the spike of power so she can be a human forever, right?
She thinks that it's gonna fix the fact that she keeps blipping back and forth between Doodle and Noid.
Yeah, and he's like, well, that's just a bunch of nonsense. That's not going to work.
You're
crazy.
Don't call me crazy.
Listen, I've been to a world where only cartoons logic and cartoons exist, and I've been back and forth, and I've fucked a cartoon character, but a spike of power? You're insane. Yeah. So she kicks him out of the car because she's like, well, fuck it, then I'm going to go all by myself.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, I better go. I'm just going to go home, I guess. So he goes home where there are more weird lights and explosions because that's when Brad Pitt is crossing over. And at the same time...
With John Edwards.
You beat me to it.
Oh, God. For the longest time, by the way, I thought that was the same John Edwards that was John Kerry's running mate. And I was really confused.
That would have been outstanding.
I was like, that's a real strange choice there, John Kerry. No wonder you didn't win.
He'd fit right in with that lady that's running for the Democrats now who wants to attack Trump in his third eye. Can you imagine her and John Edwards? Not the one that, ran with John Kerry, but the one who was the crossing over.
I think John Edwards crossing over would have been better because he could look at other voters and go, your father says... To vote. It's like he liked Cheetos. Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
Because fucking everybody loves Cheetos.
He could look at Donald Trump and be like, you're not going to win. And Donald Trump's like, well, I believe him. I'm dropping out.
I would be the greatest loser this Candace has ever seen. I will stop a hurricane with a nuclear warhead.
Forgot about that.
Have you seen an island? It's surrounded by water.
And it's the wettest water.
It is the wettest water.
In regards to wetness.
So, Cool World.
Cool World.
Brad Pitt shows up. I wrote down the quote because he literally says to Gabriel Byrne, "You just had to listen to your Johnson." He confronts him. Meanwhile, the neighbor comes over because she sees the lights again, and she's like, her reaction to all this is, "Cool World is real? Neat."
Right. She's totally accepting of all of this.
But I feel that her character was supposed to be younger.
Maybe like a
because
kid.
So it would make
that.
more sense for her
Yeah.
to just accept that.
I could see that a lot, easier.
But she's clearly like 20 at least.
Right, easily. I mean, even her saying like, my mom has a car. I mean, I think it would even been, a better story to have like the kid go like, "Let's go," and she's already holding the keys, just ready for an adventure.
And then she drives.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would have been even funnier if like she's driving and the doodle is down below pressing the gas and the brakes. I mean, just make it kooky and fun. You're already like, in a garbage fire as it is.
She's wearing phone books on her shoes. So yeah, they drive up there trying to stop Holly from touching the spike or whatever. And they make it to the building, and Holly is looking around. She's looking around for Vegas Vinny, and she finds out Vegas Vinny is that little cartoon doctor guy from the beginning of the movie.
You mean Darkman
Dr.
Jr.?
Vincent Whiskers.
What's his name?
Dr. Vincent Whiskers.
Oh boy, yeah, that guy. Yeah. And so he says, "No, that's ridiculous. Why would you think that touching a spike would do anything? You won't be able to hold on to it." And she's like, "You're crazy," and then starts climbing the building. Still blipping back and forth.
After she's dropped Harris to the ground.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is the thing. So she climbs the building, and while she's climbing, Brad Pitt goes through and tries to stop her. She lures him in, making him the dumbest person in the movie already because he falls for it. She's like, "Oh, I'm stuck. I just want to get down. Just help me." And he's like, oh, you suddenly turned a corner, become a completely different character? This is logical. She kicks him off the building to his death. Like, he is gone.
I did like that she was blipping, in between, the moment before she killed him. And you could even see, like, both faces are very, very angry. And it's, again, a continuity issue. It's the idea of, like, is she really doing this? Is she really going to be that evil? Even Brad Pitt said, "I should let you fall and just be done with you." Like seconds before he dies.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't know she was supposed to be that much of a villain, honestly.
Oh, yeah. She is the antagonist wholeheartedly.
And which leads me to say I was unaware that Gabriel Byrne was supposed to be that much of a hero.
Yeah.
God.
I did not get the feeling that he was the main character in this movie.
No,
it's absolutely a Brad Pitt movie.
Right.
If anything, I mean, not that she's a good guy or whatever, but if anything, it's almost Kim Basinger's movie.
Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, like she, the hero turns villain at the end, or the hero who we thought, was a hero, obviously switches it out. And, even fools us in the end with random powers of being able to jump through walls. Or not jump through walls.
So here's the thing. After she's killed Brad Pitt, she's going up the building. She finally gets a hold of this spike, but at the same time, the doctor tells Gabriel Byrne, "Hey, listen, this blipping that you're doing too, you can use your toon powers too, because of course you can. We need a reason for you to be able to get up there." So he stretches his arms out like a cartoon and
his
climbs
Mickey
up
Mouse hands.
Yeah, and then suddenly he becomes like some kind of superhero, and it has this giant fight scene with Holly just like random animation everywhere, and like this is the part of the movie I thought they could have had a little bit of fun with the premise. Like they did a few things that are kind of interesting, is having like cartoon characters invade the real world and freak people out.
Mm-hmm. And also the real people are blipping and turning into toons.
Yeah,
like we get the dogs playing poker because they blip out from being real guys at the casino playing poker.
The real sly, kind of like snaky kind of guy literally turns into a snake. And I love the girlfriend looks over at him, and it doesn't even seem to faze her. She's all like, "Oh, you're still here? Okay."
And the neighbor girl blips into Little Orphan Annie.
Yes, yes.
And that stuff is kind of interesting, but like they don't do enough of it, and it just doesn't feel like it's just too little, too late. Like as far as I'm concerned,
very slapped on.
Yeah. So. At this point, they have this big fight. This whole animation thing happens, and then help me out here, because what happens between this fight? He gets the spike, right? Gabriel Byrne manages to get the spike, and he like breaks it or something.
No, he doesn't get the spike. He drives it back into its spot, which I guess plugs up the hole again, and not only like plugs it up, but also sucks back in every single doodle that was getting out. Yet you also have Doc Whiskers still there.
I guess from my understanding was what Doc Whiskers did at the first of the movie, which again we don't know why he's trying to do it, other than the fact that he wants to, cross dimensions and shit.
Not explained, of course.
Not explained at all. It opens a rift, and the thing that keeps the rift regulated so that there's no mass exodus one way or the other, and thus destroying I think they called it interdimensional matrix, which I was like, no, it's too late. You can't do that shit. You can't try to explain it now.
Slow down, movie.
Yeah. The spike keeps it regulated, and by taking the spike out, it opens the floodgates, which, of course, is all the Toon stuff spilling over into the real world, which begs the question, did a bunch of the Toons over in Cool World become real?
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
if it's going to be like this actual like balance of both worlds colliding, like why is it the Toons just coming into the real world? Why shouldn't it be vice versa? Also, if Holly is wanting to be annoyed this entire time, why pull the spike, and then is she so okay with going back to being annoyed? Or back to being a
like
doodle?
a doodle.
Yeah. Like she's perfectly fine with it. She's like, I like it here. We're gonna stay. It's like, no, you just ruined everything that you kind of like worked for.
I also kind of like how Gabriel Byrne, I think, is the only character that when he goes from Noid to Doodle, it's not his voice anymore.
Yeah. I do. He's like, I'm gonna have to fight and get this spike back. Ne'er do wells.
It's like, that's a different actor. So he plugs it back up.
Just before you do that, when everything's wrapped up, when the spell has been broken and everything has been drawn back and all the worlds are separate again, the neighbor girl looks up and just is like, wow, and then just fucking leaves.
She's going to have issues later in life.
Right?
She's going to need some serious therapy. Or maybe not, because like we said, she doesn't react to anything really.
Maybe she'll become like a new comic book animator based on her adventures here.
Holly could.
Return to Cool World.
Return to Cool World. Guess what, guys? That movie is never happening.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Brad Pitt's body is brought to Cool World. He is dead. However, the doctor comes with them as well, and it's just like, oh, by the way, BT dubs, guys. He was killed by a doodle in the real world, so I mean, there's totally a rule now that I'm just going to introduce at this point where he's not actually dead because a doodle killed him in the real world, and that was a rule from the beginning. Remember when we set that up?
Right, and then Lynette, as she finds the body and says, was she a doodle when she killed him? Because not only does he not die, he turns into a doodle himself.
But that's the thing, she wasn't a doodle when she killed him.
Well, she was blipping back and forth between, so there could have been that believability, of a half second that's when she pushed him.
She was blipped when she pushed him. Yep.
Even if we take that into account, though, again, that's a rule they introduce at literally minute 98 of this movie.
Yeah, of course. What are you not following?
So Brad Pitt instantly becomes a doodle. He looks like he has weird eyes. He's like, for some reason, his
are like Little Orphan Annie eyes too.
Yeah, I don't understand why his is so strange. And he walks off with his girlfriend, and finally they're gonna get to fuck.
Yeah.
We don't have to pretend anymore.
At the same time, the movie's not over because we see that Deebs, or I'm calling him his character first time in this podcast, Gabriel Byrne and Holly are stuck in like a comic book.
Yes, and what the hell was that comic? What world was that? Is that a different dimension? Is that not Cool World?
I think it's supposed to be like, man, is it part of Vegas? Because you have like a desert sunset, but then in one frame there's like a fire hydrant with a dog about to pee on it, and so it's weird to try and figure out exactly where they are. So, are they just like banished to a part of Cool World, or are they stuck in comic book pages in the real world as like a punishment?
It's so strange. And then Gabriel Byrne's like, "We're gonna be here forever," and she's like, "No,
I'll fight crime over here. We'll have a house over here."
Yeah. And then we, of course, just to end it, just to put the stamp on it, we get Nails, who, by the way, was let out of the pen, and he's okay, guys. He does his, like, "That's it, folks. All right, you can go home now."
Have a good life.
Credits.
And then we are treated to the only good thing about this movie, and by that, I mean the soundtrack.
David fucking Bowie wrote an original song for this movie. This movie was expected to be huge.
Yes. The soundtrack actually gained more critical praise than the movie did.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because it's got David Bowie, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, some fantastic tunes by them on this.
Yeah, it's guys, it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie.
But it's a great soundtrack.
The soundtrack is good. There's like a small handful of things that you can even point out and say, all right, this animation is pretty good if you focus on it and not the background. This was kind of a clever joke. Okay, I get what you get. You know, that was a little tongue-in-cheek. But overall, like, no.
So, Drew, obviously having said that, you would recommend this movie?
Here's the thing. I'm very much an advocate of you can take away even some good things from terrible movies, and I think even terrible movies deserve a chance to be watched. So, do I recommend at least one watch of this? Yes. I mean, it's a very weak yes. I do recommend it, but do it at your own risk, I should probably say.
Nathan?
No, not really. I mean, if you're looking for something like that mixture of animation and real, obviously you're gonna head on over to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But I mean, you could watch Pete's Dragon. You could even watch the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, or Looney Tunes Back in Action, or Space Jam.
Space Jam would have been good. If I think what it comes down to is like if you want to see a movie where it just went wrong.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like a kinda, because like, yeah, it's terrible, but obviously it's not incredibly boring, I guess.
No, it's very frenetic. So,
it's very frenetic. It's got a fast pace and everything. You probably won't enjoy yourself. This would go on the back of a DVD, by the way. But like, if you want to see someone attempt something akin to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but do it like make every wrong decision that you can make, have it be like one of the weirdest and most inconsistent like screenplays. I think one of the weirdest, like, most inconsistent screenplays and lack of explanations I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, check it out, I guess. So strong recommendations from all three of us.
If you've got a second, I've got an interesting tidbit, because it's a tidbit that's interesting.
Because it's an interesting tidbit?
And that's it.
Uh-huh.
It says here, as the sets were being built in Vegas for Bakshi's original ideas, Frank Mancuso Jr., who was the son of Paramount's president at the time, had the screenplay rewritten in secret, gave it to Bakshi by the screenwriters. I don't feel that they're at fault, so I'm going to name them. Michael Grace and Mark Victor, and that it was barely the same. Larry Gross contributed to the script, but he would later go on to be uncredited, and probably, much to credit to him for being uncredited.
Well, I mean, the director, Frank, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. He was almost fired because when he found out that it was rewritten, he punched him in the nose.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, Ralph Bakshi, I mean, we say, they interfered a lot with his vision and everything. I don't think he was also the easiest person to work with.
No, but I mean, you think about it, man. You put together a script and an idea that, according to him, Paramount snatched up in 10 seconds. They were very on board to make his idea. And then to have the fucking son of the president have the script rewritten in secret, give you back a script that looks nothing like what you originally intended.
Right.
All because he wanted to get away from making horror movies.
Oh, I'm not saying that what they did was honorable in any way. I'm just saying that Bakshi had a history of having a temper.
Well, and then they should have known that then.
Yeah, maybe punching the president's son wasn't the wisest move.
And from my understanding too, Brad Pitt was actually supposed to be in the Gabriel Byrne role.
Well, there you go. I think I would have sympathized with him more.
I think a little bit too. And then Drew Barrymore was supposed to be Kim Basinger's role.
Yep.
I'm down with that.
And that would have actually, given how Drew Barrymore was at the time, that would have absolutely played right into her kind of bad girl image that she had cultivated for herself in the early 90s.
Yeah, and that was the same year, like I said, the same year that Poison Ivy, coming soon, was released. So lots of great recommendations, and I think now we're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back.
What were they thinking?
What Were They Thinking is brought to you by HostGator. HostGator is a leading provider of shared, reseller, VPS, and dedicated hosting solutions. Award-winning support is available 24/7, 365 days a year via phone, email, and live chat. Discover why over 9 million websites trust HostGator. Use the coupon code SCHLOCK for 25% off your first purchase. That's SCHLOCK, SCHLOCK, for 25% off your first purchase.
What Were They Thinking is brought to you today by GameItAll.com. Whether it's video game news, the latest in music, or movie reviews, GameItAll.com is your one-stop shop for all nerdy talk. Alright, people, listen up. I have to tell you about something that I was blown away by, and it is going to change the way you listen to podcasts. Seriously. There is a new free app called Podcoin, and what that is an app that literally pays you, the listener, pays you to listen to podcasts. You can listen to our show, What Were They Thinking, or any other of your favorite podcasts and earn pod coins while you listen. And what you could do with those pod coins is you could exchange it for valuable rewards like Amazon and Starbucks gift cards, or you can even just donate the pod coin to one of the many charities that they support on the app. I already got myself something nice with one of the gift cards I earned just for listening to podcasts. And you can too. It's very simple. Just download Podcoin in the App Store or on Android and use our special code WWTTPD to get a sign-up bonus. You'll get some bonus Podcoins right off the bat. That's WWTTPD for 300 bonus Podcoins. Sign up today.
What were they thinking?
And we're back, and hey guys,
Hello, Brendan.
It's time for us to get a little bit poetic on this here show.
Yes, bring some culture to this otherwise barren wasteland.
It's time for the low haiku.
The low haiku.
What is the low haiku, Nathan?
Well, it is 17 perfect syllables to encapsulate the movie that we just spent a little over an hour talking about.
Right. So we're going to do that. And as our guest, Drew, if you would like to begin, you can go right ahead.
Sure thing.
Oh, whoa, a lot louder
Ooh,
than
a little bit
on that
of,
one.
a lot of energy there.
NPR.
Reviewing Cool World. Is it too early to drink? I need some answers.
It's always noon somewhere, is my answer to that drinking question.
Yes. Not Roger Rabbit. Or Rocky and Bullwinkle. Cool World. A hot mess.
Okay, here's mine. No Roger Rabbit. Special effects are subpar. This thing made me ill. Thank you.
Whew, we're back in the real world. We're noids again.
Oh God, thank God! All those doodles just kept asking me to fuck them. It was really weird. I mean, I'm a Daffy Duck fan, but come on.
Well, when the fairy godmother from Cinderella starts coming on to you, that's when you gotta, get on out of there.
I thought you were gonna say that's when the money rolls in.
That's when the money rolls. No, that's when the money shots roll in. That's for sure. Hi-oh.
That's the real market.
High five. Well, of course, we talked about Cool World. We broke it down. We said what we thought of it. But what do we always say, Nathan?
Well, good sir, we do always say...
Don't take a word for us.
Don't take our word for it. Or maybe you should. I don't know. I don't run your life. But over on the Rotten Tomatoes, let's head over there now. This has a critics rating of 6%. Mm-hmm. And an audience rating of 31.
Yeah.
So, not great.
Not at all.
Yeah, I'm a bunch of contrary. Well, actually, I can tell you that some of the audience reviews are wild, and we'll find out why it's so high.
Okay, well, let's dive into this then.
Dave Kerr of the Chicago Tribune, because Dave cares, and that's why he wrote this review. Mm-hmm. He says, a few of Bakshi's inventions, such as a rattled telephone that panics every time it rings, are amusing and well animated, but most of the characters are grating and dislikable. Dislikable? Okay.
Unlikable, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've never heard dislikable, but whatever.
What are you going to do? He works for Chicago Tribune.
Dave cares.
Yep. Doesn't care too much about syntax, though.
Ooh! Take that, Dave. Shots fired.
Jay Boyer of the Orlando Sentinel actually gave it a fresh review.
Oh, shit.
He writes that the plot is too sketchy to provide much of a framework, and the only logic here is the logic of fevered daydreams. Yet, in spurts, the movie is enjoyable.
Glowing review.
I simply just like Lloyd Bradley from Empire Magazine, who gave it a 1 out of 5 with a one-word review of hopeless.
Yes, sir.
This is a fresh review from Sergio Benite.
Yes.
He says, the reluctant performance of the actors joins the lousy combination of live-action actors and the animation with looks and gestures that never end up agreeing.
Well, Fred Topel, obviously the heir to the Topel... I was going to say the Topel toothpaste magnate. From We Live Entertainment, or possibly We Live Entertainment.
We Live!
Without understanding the motion control cameras and all the other subtle techniques Roger Rabbit employed, it's amateur hour.
Yep, 100%.
So Mike McGranahan from Aisle Seat says that with the 2 out of 5, this is one of his favorite movies that he didn't like.
Okay.
I liked the interesting way that he put that.
That is I guess the effort was appreciated. Stephen Hunter of the Baltimore Sun says, much ballyhooed, much advertised. The live-action animation feature is much disaster. Not even an animated Kim Basinger dancing the hoochie coochie can save it from its own death wish combination of outsized ambition and undersized budget.
Well, David Sterrett from the Christian Science Monitor.
Ooh, my favorite.
I gave it a fresh rating.
Yeah.
Has written here, it has a walloping visual style, though returning filmmaker Ralph Bakshi to top form.
Damn.
I don't feel that it did at all do that.
Ralph, when this movie came out, guys, people were like, Ralph is Bakshi, baby.
Ugh.
Zing. Okay, should we go to the audience?
Oh, can I give one more? Just
Sure.
because you get that zing with Ralph's Bakshi.
Yes.
People Magazine reviewed it and said, back to the drawing board, everyone.
Double zing.
Yeah, there you go.
So audience reviews, guys.
Yes, let's get to the snake pit.
Let's go to the audience reviews. From Jacob P. gives it 5 stars. He simply writes, disgusting, because it's too pornographic.
Stephen S. gave it a half a star. Said this is hands down one of the worst films I've ever seen. I'd even go so far as to say that it's in my top 5 worst films ever. And I've seen a lot of bad movies.
Moore S gives it 3.5 out of 5, saying it has a lot of potential, but a lot of it is unfortunately wasted.
Victoria M says this movie was not too bad. 5 stars. That one was very short, so I'll also go I'll also read this next one here. From Danny I. He gives it 5 stars. He says, I think Cool World is an amazing movie, but it's not a kid's movie because it's very violente. That's how he writes it. Has lots of sexual humor and swearing, and if you listen closely, you can hear the F word uncensored.
Well, Sylvester K. He only gave it 1.5 stars, and he writes, repulsive, repellent, distasteful, not funny at all. Ralph Bakshi failed at relaunching his career. This film gives me the creeps when I watched it when I was little. Despite all these negativity, the visual effect and set design were quite creative.
There is Carly B, who gives 1 star, saying...
Cardi B?
No, Carly B.
Oh. Her sister.
Yeah. Save yourself the money towards therapy sessions. Contrary to popular belief, cartoon on human sex is not worth the trauma.
Contrary to popular belief?
Okay.
What?
Not only is it possible for this person, but the popular belief is that it is worth the trauma.
I think my favorite, though, is right below it as an honorable mention. For 3.5 out of 5 stars, it's just an entire line of question marks.
Yeah, I saw that one too. This one is from Kendall I, and they give it 5 stars. Awesome tale about the world of cartoons colliding with the real world. It's a true slapstick party with the cartoons, but when it comes to the real world, it gets serious. The animation was wonderful, the voices and acting were nice, and the score should have been extended. I don't know what that means. Another thing I liked is how it deals with the blast of sex among the characters.
The blast of sex.
This movie really deserves way more credit. Overall, awesome. 5 stars.
That's the name of my next band. Blast of sex.
Oh, dear, before we go out shopping, you mind just giving me a little quick blast of sex?
Oh, righto. Roger me on.
Roger Rabbit, even.
Sean F. gave this movie 5 stars and writes, love cartoons, big fan, comic books, cool world, adventure tunes over the world.
Another glowing review. Did he just fucking, like, is that all his, like, Mad Lib words?
I guess, I don't know.
Accidentally put on Rotten Tomatoes?
Let's see. Here's Kurt M, who gives it half a star. Hollywood if she could. Too bad Holly is in such an awful animated film. Ralph Bakshi at his absolute worst. Need I say more?
Boom. Roasted.
There you go.
All right, so the last one I got is actually not on Rotten Tomatoes. I found this from a... this was one of the negative reviews that was highlighted when I was looking up stuff on Cool World. So this is just like I'm sorry, I don't remember the publication, but I wrote down this quote here. Here we go. So it says, if you want to have a good time watching a bad movie, you should not watch Cool World. If you want to have a generally good and happy life free of any undue anguish or suffering, you should not watch Cool World. No one should watch Cool World. Animals should not watch Cool World. I would not show Cool World to my worst enemy. Cool World is an enhanced interrogation technique. Cool World is the video in the ring. Cool World contains substances known to the state of California to cause birth defects. Cool World is vast, angry darkness without end.
Signed, Ralph Bakshi.
B. Pitt. Well, before we move on, Drew, you also have a podcast called The Real Feels Podcast, so why don't you tell the good folks where they can check you out?
Yeah, so if you go onto Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and you type in Real Feels Podcast, that's REEL, you can find us on there. We are on pretty much any podcatcher out there, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher. We have our show come out every other Wednesday, and yeah, we'd love to have you join us and review some movies sometime.
Oh, it's like good ones?
Well, I think it's up for grabs anyways. It's really what each host picks.
We end up on the episode where they talk about fucking, I don't know, fucking like
Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
Or Battleship.
Oh, that's...
Or Battleship.
Yeah. Battle shit, am I right? Well, yeah, so go check that out. Go check out the Real Feels podcast. Like Drew said, you can check it, and your co-hosts one of your co-hosts is also named Nathan.
Yes, he is, and the other co-host is Jack.
There you go. So Nathan,
not as impressive.
Oh shit, Gabriel Byrne's on your podcast? That's fucking awesome. Is he crushing tail every week still?
Oh yeah, every week.
Awesome.
I gotta say, I gotta take exception with the clerk from the comic book store. I don't recall any hot chicks that hot working at comic book stores in the early 90s when I was a teenager.
Well, it's the same thing as I don't think any cartoonist has ever been like that studly. Like, that's Ralph Bakshi.
I don't know, I heard Walter Lance was pretty, I mean, that's how he got his name. Walter Lance.
He has that fresh out of prison, smell. It's like a pheromone.
Ralph Bakshi was like, I want to represent myself, but I want to be hot.
Get me Gabriel Byrne.
Somebody get me Byrne on the phone. So anyway, Nathan, next week, of course, another movie. Why don't you go ahead and give us a hint? Well, first of all, we should say it's a Patreon pick.
It is. It's a Patreon pick. Mendoza!
There you go. Next week, Patreon pick from, I guess we could say who it's from. It's from Steve and Izzy of Everything I Learned from Movies.
So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. So let that sink in. You might. So that's coming out next week. And is Montrose there?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, it's a good friend Montrose Monkington III here. Drew, it was awful nice of you to come on here and up the game of these two cretins. I am Montrose Monkington III, Esquire, from Bannershire upon Hampton, in the great country of England. You can find my YouTube channel, Montrose Monkington TV. You can see me talk about wrestling and other various things. You can also be friends with me on Facebook. My Facebook group, Montrose Monkington III, Esquire, and Friends. Finally, if you'd like to send me a tweet or two, I am on the Twitter, at Montrose III. That's the number 3RD. Thank you. More later.
Well, thank you, Montrose, and also, of course, if you want to find us on all the podcatchers, you can do so. You can just search "What Were They Thinking." We're on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all that good stuff. We're also on Facebook, and you can search for us on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. Check us out on Patreon.com/WWTT Podcast, and check out stuff we have on TeePublic and Redbubble. Just search for the podcast, and you will find us. First of all, again, Drew, thank you very much for being on the show again.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. This was a hoot and a half.
Thank you for joining us to talk about this classic film. But that having been said, Nathan, do you have any questions for me?
Well, I suppose, yeah, I got a couple. I mean, if you're talking about a movie made by one of the, I guess, greater animators in history, not named Disney, or or associated to Warner Brothers in any way, for him to take a movie that he wanted to be a horror movie and just kind of let the studio destroy it, and to have the president's son rewrite the movie and say, "Here, still make it, you jerk." I guess for it's my question's really more for Ralph Bakshi and what he should have been saying about Paramount Studios at the time, and that would be, what were they thinking?
Hey, this is Liz.
And this is Heather.
And we are Nerdy Bitches Podcast,
a show where two geeky ladies podcast their way through pop culture.
From movies and TV to our regular book club and everything in between, we bring you our favorite fandoms with a feminine eye.
We're talking Star Wars, Star Trek, Harry Potter, DC, Marvel, comic books, and anime.
And don't forget sci-fi, fantasy, action movies, video games, D&D, board games, and so much more.
Be sure to check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, or wherever you find awesome podcasts.
You can also find us hanging out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and at nerdybitches.com.
Talk to you soon.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. Whether one likes black holes or gratuitous movies, it's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.